The future of audio system. With ice power 1200, we are hitting point of perfection. So this is endgame amplifier. And what next? How to improve our audio quality, what we should do or what we should change in our system. That means we should find a point of impact. And before we go further, let's remember there is so-called Pareto principle. And in a simple, it explains that with a 20% of effort, we can achieve 80% of result. Yeah, here is a 20% of effort, and here is 80% of result. It's the same like in the cities. 20% of streets are handling 80% of traffic. With 20% of investments, we can achieve 80% of audio quality. And that means if we can define the point of impact, then we can use Pareto principle and with limited investments achieve very high quality system. And here I put my subjective evaluation of studio mastering. Importance 10, audibility 10. Anyone can hear, I also can hear. It's very easy to distinguish between bad recording and good recording. But this is out of our hands. We just choose a good source and that's it. MP3 compression at 320 kilobits per second. I think it's not important, and the audibility is almost indistinguishable. For me, it is indistinguishable, but some people are saying that they can hear that it is compressed. So when compressed from studio recordings, 90% of audience will not hear difference. Me neither. So I accept MP3 at 320 kilobits per second. That means Spotify could be my source. I don't need a Tidal. I don't need Amazon Prime. I don't need some other lossless services. Microdynamics. Importance 10, audibility 10. The most important for subjective listening. And what is that? This is detalization, or capability of loudspeaker to reproduce really background noises in the same clearance as a loud noises. It's very difficult to achieve, but when we're achieving it, it gives us so much satisfaction. We are judging that this speaker sounds so good, so good. Audio amplifier frequency response. Modern amplifiers has so good frequency response within plus minus 0.25 decibels that it is meaningless parameter as well. Our speakers has by far larger non-linearities in a frequency response. Total harmonic 0.01% and less important, practically not audible, hard to hear below 0.1%, but modern amplifiers are so good that this parameter is neglectable. Damping factor between 10 and 50, importance 10, we should be around the 10 at least. Audibility, so I did the tests, and actually if you are above 10, you can hear it. In the forums you can find out that many audiophiles are reflecting to this parameter, but it is inaudible, and smart books also are saying that if you are above a 10, it is inaudible. So that means damping factor 700, 800, 1000, 2000, meaningless. Maybe side effects of the modern amplifiers. So you should be above 10, and the 50 is a crazy good. Power headroom, importance 10, audibility. When we're working away from the amplifier clipping, that's important. Power amplifier clipping is dangerous for the speakers, and also that clarity and then clearance of audio reproduction largely depends on a power reserve what we have. Passive crossover into speaker box, the worst element in signal chain. It impacts a lot. Audibility is 10, and this is element which heavily impacting microdynamics. Mid-range speaker quality, the same. Microdynamics, difference between very good mid-range speaker and average mid-range speaker. Those are microdynamics, those motor capability to drive a membrane with a maximum precision. Which of those elements we can relatively easily solve to achieve microdynamics? That means we can get rid of passive crossover and we can choose a good mid-range speaker, but is mostly a question of money. And as a proof of microdynamics, I choose that one speaker, Heritage IV. It is the most contradictive speaker what I ever seen. It is developed by a great American engineer and scientist Paul Klips, who is specialized in compression driver speakers. Here is specs of Heritage IV, and why I choose that example, because in a YouTube you can find really orgasmic happiness of this speaker from many users. Nevertheless, it is by specs kind of ordinary speaker. It can work from 50 to 20 kilohertz, plus minus 4 decibels. Linearity is just from the 50 from 17, but it is acceptable. The biggest compromise in this design to keep a small size and reasonable price is crossing frequency. Having 12-inch woofer, they should cross it at 850 hertz, and this is compromised. But having very good compression driver speakers, it is capable of the perfect microdynamics. Here is a linearity, and blue is a plus minus 6, so it's a plus minus 6 kind of linearity, but it is fine. Room impact is higher. But this speaker has very low distortions at listening volume. And when I say the compromises, yes, at the crossover point, when you go up with a loudness, the coloration start to come at the male voice lower register, and this is a compromise. So you will find that engineers are saying that it's crap, but listeners are saying it's so good, so good, so good. And there, everything is about the microdynamics. When we are talking about the speakers and quality, you can see here is a motor. Magnet and current is making a force, and this force is moving membrane. And if you build that speaker in proper way, there's plenty of science. But the key thing is, if you have maximum strength of motor, and it is a function of costs, there's always compromises, then you can drive that diaphragm with a maximum precision. And the key difference between expensive speaker and average speaker is in this magnet and coil interaction. Here I took example of average budget speaker, but good one. I bought it and built a system. And this current and magnet interaction, it's called as a force factor, or BL, and here it's 3.7. The higher is this number, the better is a speaker capability to drive a membrane. And moving mass, including air, it's a 4-inch speaker, 4.9. Cost of this speaker is about 60 euros. And here I took best of the best. This is ScanSpeak Illuminator series, and it's called the very best money can buy. It has underhung neodymium motor. Underhung means that they have small voice coil, and this voice coil always is working inside the magnet. Inside the magnet means that voice coil is here, small one, and it moves inside the magnet. Majority of speakers what you can buy for a reasonable budget are overhung. That voice coil is larger than magnet, and inside the magnetic field there are always predefined number of windings. But the problem is that at the edges here is magnetic field distortions, and they are not that precise as those underhung models. Completely different design. And when we talking about the good ones, neodymium magnet, probably strongest magnet in the world at the current moment. And you can see that force factor here. I put it larger. Force factor BL is 6. There was a 4.7 and there is 6. It's a huge jump up, and moving mass is even lower. There were 4.9 and here is 4.7 grams. That means this speaker will be driven with a higher tolerance, and also it can provide much higher power. And the second parameter, sensitivity 87, and for the cheap one, sensitivity 88, the same. So this expensive one is significantly better, but it comes with a huge price. Price of this speaker is 300 euros. The cheap one 60 and 5 times. But this is a one way how to improve those microdynamics when you really feel that it is so precise, so good. Another thing impacting microdynamics is passive crossover. And here is one of the top engineers, Truls Gravesen. For me, he's sensei. He built almost all possible combinations of top OEM speakers, and he also provided drawings of them. If you want to build something incredibly good, then I recommend this site. And business model is that he's partly paid by those manufacturers to build the speakers properly, and he's selling kind of kits and knowledge. And the key business model is that you can buy kits from them, or you can buy information about the crossover, because each of those designs has a specific crossover, and crossover is not provided with technical documentations. I found out that SBA Acoustics has a reasonable priced speakers with a high quality, and in my designs I'm using SBA Acoustic speakers, but there is another companies, and each of those companies some uniquely great speakers, and you can find different type of the speakers. And this is a classical. From theory, this size is optimum, and towers are not. But somehow today, most of our latest designs are towers, and they look at the furniture. But sometimes just looking for a tower with a tweeter and a 6-inch woofer, you should understand that it is shelf speaker. It's near field monitor. Yeah. It doesn't matter that it's put in a tower. Yeah, you get a little bit more bass, but generally it works like a near-field monitor. And this is practically optimum design, and if you put on a stand, then it is fantastic. And let's stop for a moment to the crossover. Why passive crossover is so bad? So microdynamics at the mid-range, at our soundstage and many other things. This is our hero speaker. And what can you see? In series with that speaker, in a crossover, you have 1, 2 resistors. And let's assume that both of them summed are 1 ohm. And damping factor, what the speaker has related to audio amplifier, 4 ohms divided by 1 ohm is 4. And then you have an audio amplifier with, I don't know, 700 damping factor. But in reality, the speaker is receiving just 4. You are not driving this speaker with a high tolerance, and it's muddy. I also tested it. I put passive crossover between a mid-range speaker and high-quality audio amplifier, and they lost all clarity, all those micro movements, all those microdynamics. So it is so bad to have it. It's necessity, yes, but actually if you want to improve audio quality, for any cost you should get rid of passive crossover. It's not that much impacting low frequencies because there is only one coil, but it's also impacting high frequencies. But for high frequencies, it's not so critical. But here you are losing a lot of detalization. And what happens if you take away that passive crossover with all those resistors? Your amplifier will grab speaker with a strong hand and drive with a high tolerance, with a maximum performance what it can get. But now you can buy very expensive speaker and get shit out of it. So next logical step is the active speaker system. And when we are looking to real implementation of the crossover, you can see it's built from the good components, but there are those bad resistors, and there is also a lot of winding. There's extra impedance, and here is extra impedance, and everywhere you have unnecessary things in it. And in a practice, you are losing about 1/3 of power in a crossover, and your music reproduction becomes muddy, or dull, or damped. There are several expressions. How can we express it? Losing details, and they will not sound good at low volume as well. It's in the same. And everything is due to this bad passive crossover. What is advantage of the passive crossover? Advantage is that your speaker is finished and it is standardized. You can put to any amplifier and it will work, and it will work correctly. How I see a future of such designs? I would say one solution would be that speakers will contain only box and speakers, and each speaker output will be somewhere here with the connectors, and you can connect either passive crossover or you can run it with 3 amplifiers: high power amplifier for a woofer and smaller power amplifiers for a tweeter. What it will give? First, how easy it will be for amplifier to drive those speakers. This is Klips Heritage IV input impedance, and it states that the minimum load 3.6 ohms and average about 5 ohms, and this is a good example. If you have a more complex crossover, passive crossovers, those variations could drop down to 2 ohms, and it will be very difficult to drive. And also those are reactive loads, storing energy, number of high inductivity coils and capacitors. Those are energy storing elements, and you should deal with them with the amplifier. And then you need really a low amplifier impedance to drive it. But in case you have a direct connection to speaker, and let's look at the speaker impedance. It is flat as a table. Yeah. Here you have 7 ohms, and then slightly grow to 10 ohms in operational bandwidth. It is so easy to drive a speaker when it's connected directly to amplifier that any quality amplifier can do it, even a low quality amplifier, cheap amps. How about this mid-range? The same, flat as a table. Yeah, and typically you're driving from 300 Hz to 4 kHz. That's here. Easy, perfectly flat. And this is what amplifier is facing when you have the passive crossover built in. And then you can drive it with an excellent tolerance. Next logical step is active system. Let's choose the components. And first we need a speaker system to modify, and in my opinion, only 3-way system is worth to modify. 3-way system can provide studio quality, no coloration, and here is a good example of classical design. It's a GBL L100, a modern one with a modern speakers. And I personally prefer such kind of solution because dimensions are by the book. They are theory for optimum dimensions, so that here. And 12-inch speaker will move sufficient air to make a punchy bass and fill a room, a relatively large room. how it should look. Here's a good example. Yes, you need a little stand to put in a right height. I would put it even on a stand with the wheels, that I can place it in optimum position in a smaller room. System is using powerful 12-inch woofer, pure pulled corner woofer, operating in bass reflex enclosure. Yes, bass reflex. And pure pulp, I understood it's cellulose or it's paper. Those are paper-based speakers, sensitive and good, and paper is a good material for the speakers. Fat front panel, different ways how can we place it. And if you look at specs, this is classical specs, classical 90 dB sensitivity, it's typical. It can handle 200 watts RMS, that's pretty powerful, so we need at least double power amplifier, is better even more. Frequency response from 40 to 40 kilohertz at -6 dB. That means at -10 dB it can go down to 30 hertz, so it's covering full audible region. Crossover frequencies at 450 and 3.5 kilohertz. That means this 5-inch mid-range speaker is practically covering all stereo what we have, including male voice lower register. Very good crossover frequency choice all around. Not extremely heavy, 26 kilograms, but reasonably heavy. On the drawbacks, a bit fat piglet. You need a space and you need a consensus with your spouse. But if you put in the wheels, then you can operate in a way that when you really want a quality, then you move it to the right place and listen it. And when you are not listening that, then you move it back in a corner and it stays as a furniture. And probably this is one of the most important consideration when we want that that speaker be completely passive, without a power cord, and keep electronics out of the speaker. Of course, another advantage is your system flexibility. Okay, how about electronics? Here is Hypex FA503 Fusion Plate amplifier, 3-way amplifier. Unfortunately, it's not built from scratch. They put together existing boards and then it becomes a little bit lousy. Ideally, I would say that there should be 4-channel plate, 2 channels put in a bridge for a woofer, and 2 channels about 100-200 watts for a mid-range and tweeter. That would be ideal. And another lowlight is DSP. Those one-chip DSPs are compromises. And imagine you have a 1000 watts digital to analog converter or a streamer, then you get a perfect analog signal and you put in a lousy DSP and then your quality will go. So not exactly for a home usage scenario. And another drawback is relatively hard to implement in DIY design. Either you need another box or you should cut a large hole in your speaker. Even it's decently priced, I don't think it fits in home audio amplification system. What alternatives? No, first we need a crossover, and here in Thomann there are a number of digital crossovers and analog crossovers. My personal opinion that for active 3-way system at home you don't need a digital crossover. You need just to place your speakers in the right way. And then there is DBX 3-way analog crossover for 250, and it is also measured, and it measures very well. It's measured by Audio Science Review. They measured the 2-way system, but 3-way system has similar measurements. There is one drawback, and it's here. So you can see it's regional settings for the mains. I can buy in a EU region, that's 220 volts. If you are in America or in Canada or in Japan, you need 110. It doesn't work. Very hard to make a system integrated solutions. Too many variables. And what alternative? There is a Behringer Super X Pro version 2. And that one has universal mains, almost the same. And it also has one important feature. You can mute channels. It is handy when you're setting up your system and tuning your crossover with a measurement microphone or with other methodology. And one more thing, it has a multi-band limiter. If you sometimes want to go for a crazy party, when after a drink someone could come and crank your loudness to the limits, you can set up a limiter that you never go above your amplifier capabilities. In my opinion, there are two great options and we should use it, and we don't need a digital crossover. Those could be next investments, but comparing to microdynamics, all those time alignments and small things in a non-treated room, those are inaudible. Right placement of speakers is by far more important. And by choosing a boards, professional boards are only available from IcePower, so I will choose for a woofer IcePower 1200 Ace2. So we are going with 400 euros to drive two woofers. And for a mid-range, this IcePower 200 Ace2 amplifier module is almost perfect to drive a mid-range. It can deliver clean watts, about 100 watts for a mid-range and tweeter, for 4 ohms and for 8 ohms, with some power reserve. It is by far more than we need. Typically, we are operating at 5 watt region, and then we have a perfect total harmonic distortions. And also, since mid-range and tweeter have a separate power supply, that means even cranking woofer to the max, we will have a clean mid-range, always clean mid-range. It's not impacted by how power consumed by woofer. And how to put everything together. In a professional market, there are different rack modules and flight cases, and this 3U Eco Compact flight case is pretty okay, reasonably priced. Of course, you can choose something better. You can add you can take a larger case and add some power sockets if you need, and then you will have integrated solution. Or just put in a steel box and keep it everything in a rack mount. There are plenty of those, and you choose the right one. I think it's not expensive. Yeah, it's not material steel, and it fits very well in your design. And then it's on a size of normal powerful amplifier. All your system is there. But I prefer that flight case version, because sometimes you can put it together and transport to other place. It makes it more mobile. In case you really want to be a cost saver, you can also mount it in a wall mount wall rack. 16 euros and you are done. Also, you can take a little bit larger one and add power sockets or power distribution as well. So plenty of options if you make it rack mount and use a rack mount units. From now, we made a concept and let's build one.